Video game movie adaptations do have a long history of being, at best, fully mediocre, and at their worst, they're a soulless, shallow cash grab. Talking of, I'm Sara from GameByte.
I'm Josh from Frag. I can't believe that's how you've introduced the Uncharted movie.
We went to go and see the Uncharted movie at a press screening just before its release on the 11th of February 2022.
We made it to London. We're on some of us made it to London in one piece. We're just on our way. I can see the view. We're going to go see the brand new Uncharted movie, and we will let you know our thoughts.
Going into the Uncharted movie, I was super, I don't know, skeptical, because as you say, like, video game movies do not have a good track record. But yeah, I think it's fair to say I was more hot on this than you were. Where do you want to start with talking about this film? Because it's quite a meaty thing to get into.
First of all, I'd like to talk about what the Uncharted movie is actually about. So it's, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's a prequel, isn't it? It's, some people might not know this, but it's a prequel to how Sully and Drake met, right?
Yeah, so this is the first time, at least, where it's not canonical to the games. So you know when Drake and Sully meet in the games, we go through that in Uncharted 3. This is a retelling of that, which is a little bit different. So yeah, it is when Nathan Drake and Victor Sullivan first meet. They first meet up with Chloe as well, as a band of treasure hunters, and go on this adventure. And then yeah, it leads nicely into some nice jumping off points where the characters could go next. But yeah, it is technically a prequel if you look at it that way.
And it's directed by Ruben Fleischer, who you might know from Zombieland. And I loved Zombieland. And I think, especially like the visual style of it is very similar. Like, you've got like these superimposed like pieces of text to establish the locations. Anyone who knows Zombieland will be very aware of that. I really, really liked that film. The only thing that was really kind of like holding me back from being hyped for this film was the casting. Now, we know that when the cast was announced, it was Tom Holland as Nathan Drake and Mark Wahlberg as Sully. And the internet was very divided on this, we saw. It was Tom Holland as Nathan Drake.
Yeah, it's certainly a choice, right? In the games, Uncharted, Mr. Uncharted, Mr. What's he called again?
What?
Nathan Drake. That's the lad. He's like, he's in his 30s. You know, he's not getting on, but he's certainly a much more mature character. And that's just not Tom Holland, is it? He's the dorky 15-year-old that goes to the high school.
This is it. Like, I've memed this with all the respect in the world, but Tom Holland has made a very successful career for himself out of playing this kind of adorkable teenage boy thing.
It's certainly a choice, but I feel like I was in the same boat as you. I fully thought that was my biggest sort of gripe with the film going into it, was that he wasn't going to feel like Nathan Drake. But I feel like literally within the opening minutes, he's already there wisecracking, and I think probably within the first few scenes, I was in on the character. It's definitely not the same as the games. You have to sort of approach this film as its own identity. It certainly takes a lot of inspiration from the games, especially from Uncharted 4 and its story beats particularly. But yeah, if you come at this from the angle of that this is like a retelling, a sort of different version of Nathan Drake and Sully, I think you'll be more on board if you're more open to it. But yeah, Tom Holland certainly turned me around. I was less convinced on Mark Wahlberg's Sullivan. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I felt like it took him like a little while to kind of embody the character that we know and love. But I think for me, Tom Holland, like for the street smart, sexy kind of Nathan Drake. I know we were chatting about this earlier this morning, but Tom Holland's actually only a little bit older than me. He's what, 25?
He is 25. Yeah.
I'm 24, and I felt a little bit looking at, like, there were a lot of gratuitous, shall we say.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Wet shirt. If you're a fan of Tom Holland, you're going to love this film.
Yeah. Who has a rope in their apartment, by the way? No one climbs a rope in their apartment, especially not in New York. If you've got the space to hang a rope in your New York apartment, you are on some money, I'm telling you.
won't answer the question who has a rope in their apartment. One thing I thought was particularly interesting about this film was its representation of female characters. Interesting to have such dynamic and flawed female characters that weren't celebrated as a girl boss by a major production company. Like, it's not a win to have these well-written, powerful female characters. And I often find a lot in media that it is kind of celebrated as a win. And I think it was Sophia Ali as Chloe Fraser and Tati Gabrielle as Braddock. They were, like, incredibly well written. They were, like, selfish and nasty and, like, downright vicious at moments.
Legit.
Like,
they are fun to watch on screen.
Which is why I was so confused that Chloe Fraser in the final act. Now, we're going to go a little bit into spoiler territory here, so just jump to this timestamp on the screen if you don't want any spoilers. My issue with the final act was that I wanted more Chloe Fraser, because she was great. Mm-hmm. And Fraser, she was blinded in her greed, like, all throughout the film. And she fell into a trap set up by Nathan Drake. He'd left some false coordinates, and, like, she'd abandoned them and gone off to, like, go find the treasure by herself. And I hear you in the comments, you're arguing the fact that, like, the fact she was blinded by her greed is kind of like the whole point. But my question there is then why throughout the movies and throughout the games, in fact, like, she continuously runs rings around Sully and Drake. And in the movie especially, it felt like a very convenient setup to move this powerful female character who's been with us throughout the film out of the final act so that Nathan and Sully can have this kind of, like, father-son, nice bromance escapade thing going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's completely out of character for Chloe, especially coming from the games. As you say, she is smarter than Drake in a lot of instances in the game. So for her to then just sort of become, like, eradicated in for the final action scene, like, she's part of the great action throughout the whole movie, and then just ends up sort of disappearing and then comes back in for a sort of gratuitous shot at the end.
It was very weird. Like, there were a lot of plot holes in this movie, and, like, the technical aspects were, like, pretty poor. It had some, like, really choppy continuity and some super dodgy editing.
Oh yeah.
But like, she came back onto the screen and it was like a low down angle, and she's in a bikini, like, on this little, like, power yacht thing,
riding off into the sunset, like.
Nah, and isn't that kind of like the gratuitous femininity we need from a massive media corporation?
Legit.
Something else I really enjoyed, actually, was the action of the movie.
Oh yeah, this is, like, I think this is probably my favorite part. Like, as you know from the Uncharted games, action is probably, like, you know, the story, you've got and the puzzles, but the action is what you're there for, right? And all of if you were to flip the Uncharted movie, like any of the Uncharted games, into a movie, you would basically just have yourself a free, like, B-tier Hollywood action blockbuster that you go and see in the height of summer. You don't expect anything, like, that's going to be at the Oscars at the end of the year.
I don't know. Free Guy got nominated for an Academy Award. Anything can happen nowadays.
True, we are living in the Matrix. But yeah, like, and the action was probably some of the most impressive thing. It was the most impressive thing that kept me going through this film, I think. Yeah, especially Tom Holland's, like, we know Tom Holland is great with action. You know, he's Spider-Man, for God's sake. He can throw himself around and do whatever acrobatics he likes. But I think what I liked about this film as well is that it leans into Nathan Drake's like, ability to be street smart and witty. Like, there's some physical comedy towards the start where the film shows you that Nathan Drake he's quite young, and he's not as burly as, like, he's strong. There's these, like, training sequences, but he's not going to take on a bunch of security guards or a bunch of armed forces. He has to use his wits about him, and he constantly does that throughout the film. And, like, you know, it's no John Wick, but the way that he uses, like, the environment and the tools that he has to, like, take down these guards and all of his opponents, it's really, really fun to watch. It certainly kept me entertained.
I think I often find that the thing that gets me the most with these video game movie adaptations, they just get so wrapped up in like the gritty realism of Hollywood. Like, believe me, I've seen the Assassin's Creed movie with Michael Fassbender. Like, video game movies need to be fun, plain and simple. And like, I mean this with all the respect in the world. Uncharted is a really dumb movie.
Oh, it's so dumb. It is so like that final act, set piece. Like if you've seen it, you'll know. Like you're watching it, just like laughing at how ridiculous it is, but also laughing with it because it's like, you know, come on, it's hilarious. It's so funny, and I get that a lot with like a lot of the big action set pieces in this. And yeah, as you say, it fully leans into that video game aspect of like this could never actually happen, but because it leans into that, it is just ridiculously fun to watch. It's full B tier movie, and I love it for that.
It is. It's proper like Indiana Jones kind of bloke goes treasure hunting movie. So if you've seen like any action movie in the past like 30 years, you'll know what to expect from the Uncharted movie. But I think that's okay. I don't think every movie needs to be like completely bold and unique and different. It did its genre tropes very well. I'll give it that.
Definitely. And when it sort of feels like it's about to go into sort of like become a caricature of itself and it gets a little bit too tropey, it does put albeit quite a, you know, you said you could see this twist coming, but it does have a bit of a twist. And then, yeah, you know, it's pretty pacey. That you don't stay in one location for too long. You're constantly going to new places. Characters are given time to breathe. It's good fun.
I think for me, if you're a fan of the franchise, you'll get a kick out of like all of these. They've really cleverly like woven in like these little small Easter eggs and nods to the source material that never feel fan servicey. Like the plot can get by without them. There's one or two. There's
one big one that if you are watching this film and you've not played the games, or even if you have played the games and you're not sort of involved in video game culture, like you're gonna watch that and think, what just happened? I'm so confused. But for fans like for video game fans like me, like I don't know if you didn't notice it in the did you until
I don't know how I didn't notice. Like it just didn't process. I think I was just so wrapped up in the whole kind of like experience.
Yeah, no, I don't want to spoil it, but we do have an article upon FragHero of the top 5 Easter eggs if you want to go and have a read of that. It was I had a lot of fun.
We'll drop
spotting
that in
them.
the doobly-doo.
In the doobly-doo.
Is the Uncharted movie worth your time? It is, at its core, I think, a very bland B-tier Hollywood action adventure. But I'm not sure what else you could want from an Uncharted movie, to be honest.
Yeah, fully. Like if you've never played the Uncharted games, I don't think you're going to enjoy this as much. But if you do love the Uncharted games, you know what to expect, I think this is definitely for you. You're going to have a good time with this one.
And it releases in cinemas on February the 11th, 2022. We'd really like to thank Sony PR for sending us access to the early screening. We had so much fun.
Definitely.
I've been Sara from GameByte.
I've been Josh from FragHero.
And you've been wonderful. Thanks for listening.